So now we come to the point where, like, you come back to the States, or Maharaji tells you that you have attachment back in America. And
I didn't know
funny,
what he was talking about.
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is, what do you think he was exactly referring to? And in one sense, we do know that, physically you would not see him again. So I'm wondering if there was somewhere
So far.
where, yeah, so far. But
So far.
I'm just wondering, was there some link to that where he didn't want you to be there, maybe when he leaves the body?
No, no, he didn't want anything. He only did what was in the best interest of everybody and everyone that he's connected to. So there's
Yeah,
not even an issue.
yeah,
First of all, I was very sick. I had pretty much recovered from hepatitis, which I almost died from.
hmm,
But I had every parasite known to mankind. We were eating antibiotics like M&Ms, just to not, just to deal with all the sickness. We were traveling, we were eating off the street, drinking water everywhere.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean.
And
So,
antibiotics are not hard to get it easily in India.
oh yeah, and whatever you want, you get. No, you could just go up to any pharmacy. Say, I'm feeling some. Oh, here, take this
Yeah,
tablet. Take this tablet. So, so I wasn't very healthy. That's one thing.
yeah,
But the other thing was, even though in my mind I had left America forever when I went to India, I gave everything I had away. I sold my car, I sold my guitar, I gave my record collection away, I gave clothes away. I left maybe a small box of stuff in my mother's house. But in my mind, I was never returning. But he knew, and he kept me in India a long time, 2.5 years. He absolutely, totally. One night, I we were staying in Allahabad. Ramdas and others had applied for their extensions to their visa in Delhi. So now they wanted to get another extension. They had to return to Delhi. And they heard there was some guy that they could bribe in the visa department. So they all went. Most, almost all the other Westerners went. And I also had to extend my visa. But I had applied in Gaya. So I had to go back to Gaya. So I arrived at Dada's house where Maharaji was staying, and we were having our satsang every day with all my stuff. And I said to Dada, I said, I have to get my visa extended. I have to go to Gaya to do it. I couldn't go to Delhi. So I'm going to take the late train later tonight, to get back to Gaya. So I said to Dada, but I'm not leaving without darshan. So Dada goes in. He comes out in a little while. I said, Maharaji says, don't go. He'll send you to Kanpur, where his devotee's the chief of police, and he'll stamp your visa. And sure enough, that's what happened. So, and then he did it again. So I was able to stay 2.5 years. And he made a big deal about it. He said, oh, Ramdas and others, they tried to go to the highest level, and look, they all got sent back to America. And that's true. They couldn't even come back and say goodbye to Maharaji. They thought they were coming right back, so they didn't even take leave of Maharaji. He
yeah,
said, look, they tried to go, and then Krishna was so humble, bullshit. I would have gone to Delhi, but I had to go somewhere else. But
yeah.
this is what he did all the time, this nonsense. So he kept me there. So one day he looked at me and he said, you have to go back to America. You have attachment there.
Yeah.
I didn't know what he's talking about. But he knew what karmas I had. He knew what had to be lived through. He knew the lessons I had to learn myself. And he knew that was the only way to do it. And, or at least the best, the only way for me to do it. So that's what he did. He sent me back. And everything that's happened to me,
Yeah.
every thought that I've had in the last 83, 93, 2003, 13, 48 years. Every thought, every emotion, everything I've done, everything I've felt, every dream I've had, everything I've imagined in the last 48 years is exactly what he was talking about. There's no mystery. Everything that was in me had to come out, and it's been coming out and continues to come out.
Right.
So if I had stayed in India, I would have died. I would have gotten very, very, very sick and probably wouldn't have lived through it. But that's secondary, because
Yeah.
it was really a question of what I needed to go through to purify my heart. And
Yes.
and that's still going on. That process is still happening.
So, at many times in your book, uh, you've spoken about your depression and your depressive state from the young age, and then obviously even in the presence of Maharajji, there were times when you did not want to live, and then you were brought out of that by him. And then, of course, once he passed, you went into depression again and into turmoil, personal turmoil. So, but I want to ask you this because, there was a depression that you had before you met Maharajji. And then once you met Maharajji, obviously it was a major life-changing experience. And then, of course, because of your attachment to him, from what I understand, you went into that depressive state again. But was there a difference in this state of depression, pre-Maharajji and post-Maharajji? Because you had met somebody that had such a profound impact on your life. Did it make you feel like, no matter how depressed I am, I can just keep chugging along? I don't want to end my life.
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
The issue is this, you're born and you develop personality, so to speak, based on your experiences, based on what you absorb from your parents, based on what you absorb from your friends, the things that happen to you, the desires that you have, etc., etc. And you develop a way of seeing yourself, how it's unconscious really, but you see yourself in a certain way. And you're also, you're trained by life to believe everything you think and feel. Your ego, so to speak, everything you think, you believe everything you think. I feel like shit today. You believe it. I'm no good. I'm not worthy. You believe it. These programs are running.
Yeah.
Now, just because I met Maharajji did not mean that those programs stopped running.
Yeah.
He saved me from those programs winning over my he saved me from those programs destroying me, but he did not, but I still had to deal with the fact that those programs were still running and that I still believed a lot of things about myself that I didn't like, and I was very identified with that stuff. And so when he left the body, I felt that I would never find that love again. Where was I going to find that? I found it, and now I've lost it.
Mm-hmm.
So I believed that. But you see, the intensity of that belief wasn't so different than the intensity of that belief before I met him. I believed what I felt. Right? There was no space in that.
Yeah.
I believed it. This was true. I didn't have the space in me to say maybe it's just a thought, or I I I see that, I feel that, but I'm still here. I didn't have any way of working with it at that point. I was overpowered by that despair. And yes, it was, of course, it was different than before I met him, because
Yeah.
he had taken my hand. And he said over and over, once I take your hand, I never let go. Even when you let go of mine.
Mm.
Not if,
Yeah.
when you let go of mine. And I had let go of his hand at that point. I gave up. But he never let go of mine, and I knew that, but I couldn't feel it. Even though I knew it, I didn't feel it in a way that saved me from the suffering that I was going through. So it was quite a few years later that in India that I was able to, I was freed of the that kind of suffering. The root of that suffering was cut for me by grace. It wasn't something I did. I was not capable of saving myself. I didn't have it in me, karmically, psychologically, emotionally, to even bring myself to the feet of the Lord. The Lord himself had to drag me, screaming and kicking, to his own feet, because I was not capable. I didn't have that. I hated myself so much. I had so much darkness and unhappiness in me, and hurt, that I couldn't even turn myself towards his feet. He himself had to drag me back, and he did.
Sort of like a second coming of how you maybe first met Ramdas and got that feeling initially. It was
It
like
was a
it was
it
different,
was
but
a, it was a deeper
yeah,
deeper experience. Yes.
yes. Um, we speak about love, and I see that word. You speak of you use that word a lot in your book, and
Yeah, I wish I knew what I was talking about.
and of course, it's used very loosely, and it's not really in the, it's just used a lot, but we don't really understand the true meaning of it. Um, and you mentioned a lot that the Western culture doesn't have that love and that affection and that compassion that you sort of discovered in India. Um, but when you actually, coming from an Indian family raised very Indian in this country, very traditionally, I would say, sort of in contrast to what you're, to one extreme that you're speaking of, I think the way Indians are is or can be a pretty the other the other polar opposite sometimes, which is too much love, too much smothering, over protectiveness, which leads to a lot of issues that can come up with youngsters. And um, so it's I feel like, and I feel like this, people in our culture often look to the West and find what they're doing to be amazing,
Yeah,
trends there to be amazing. So it's always like one side looks at the other side like, the grass is
yeah.
greener there.
It's just a
Uh,
mirror. It's a mirror. Those. Yes, Indian culture has its own neuroses.
yeah,
Western culture has its own neuroses.
yes,
But the key to it for me was living with the Indian families.
yeah,
I saw that they were at ease with each other. They could yell and scream. They
mhm,
could just be themselves. And there wasn't any fear that the person yelling at them would actually throw them out of their heart.
mm,
You see?
yeah,
That's why it was what I called a functional family.
Hmm.
Because everything was allowed. It was held inside this space of love that was just in the blood. It wasn't didn't. And even though there might be all kinds of stuff to deal with, and like all the stuff you mentioned, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Wouldn't you not agree that for the most part, the love was never in question, even if the behavior was in question?
true.
But not in America.
Yeah,
The anger that parents inflict on their children, their own hurt, their own this psychological damage that's passed on from generation to generation, is brutal. And it's brutal, and you don't feel loved, and you don't feel accepted, and you don't feel safe. So once I was sitting in the back of the temple with Siddhima, many years after Maharaji left the body,
yeah,
and all the grandchildren and cousins of the Tiwari family, Mr. and Mrs. Tiwari, my Indian parents, the oldest grandson was being married. And they all came for blessings to the temple and hung out with Ma, who they've known their whole lives.
yeah, yeah.
And I was sitting back there with Ma, and there were like 15, 20 of these kids of all ages. And I was staring at them, and I could not believe how much love there was amongst these cousins. My own cousin won't talk to me.
Mm.
My own cousin's been dedicated to basically killing me his whole life. He just hates me, always has. And I just was like, and Ma, I didn't say anything, but Ma just looked at me and she said, "You see, Krishna Das? You see? You see what you missed by being born in America."
Mm.
So it's on that simple level. I'm not talking about, of course, there's all kinds of problems
Yeah,
of their own flavor.
yes.
But my experience has been just what I said. Mr. Tiwari would piss me off. He would say things that would just infuriate me. And then he would look at me and say, "You will fire upon me now?" He wanted to fight, he wanted to party. And we'd be like nose to nose, eye to eye, screaming at each other.
Right.
And it was like, wow, this is great.
Yeah,
Who could I do that with? Nobody in my life. Don't raise your voice. Don't talk to me like that. Don't look at me like that. That's how I was brought up, whoa.
yeah.
So for me, it was so liberating. Maybe it's a little bit idealistic, but still, that was my experience.
So since you brought her up, tell us about Siddhima, because obviously she's referenced a lot, and I know she was a great teacher to you as well in her own way. So how was it? How did she complement Maharaji? Because I think she was a student of Maharaji, but it seemed like there were some teachings that she gave. So tell me a little bit about her.
Maharaj is the sun, and she's the moon.
Mm.
That's it. It's the same light reflected from in a different source. Same light.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it tastes a little bit different because it comes from a different source, but it's the same love, the same light. She was his devotee. Mm-hmm. One time this woman I know was organizing a conference of women spiritual teachers from all around the world. And one of the women came to see Ma and asked her if she would come to Switzerland for this conference. And she said, "I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm a devotee of Maharaji." That's, egolessness. Mm-hmm. Not even the slightest. Not the slightest thing to get stuck on. There's nothing.
Yeah.
She was totally merged into him, totally at one with him, totally present with him all the time, with that presence, that vast presence. Mm-hmm. And she was love, and if it wasn't for her, my life and the life of so many Westerners would be very different because she was there for us after Maharaji left.
Yeah.
And no, no matter what we did and how stupid we got and how screwed up we got in our lives, she was always there with welcoming arms,
Yeah.
full of love and acceptance, and never judged us, and really, really kept us together
Yeah.
and kept us pointed in the right direction. And yeah, she was, and I think even she was better at hiding herself than he was.
Oh.
She never promoted herself, never acted special, never demanded any kind of special treatment.
Yeah.
Nothing. And when she traveled like an Indian with the widow with the white sari, cloth, simple cloth sari. Never attracted attention to herself.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Just so.
One of the things I think that uh, I discovered after reading about you was when you were in India, you were in charge of being like the head priest at the temple.
Let's not make it more than it is, okay? So there was Maharaji had a new temple built to Durga,
Yeah.
Vindhyavasini Durga Devi, there in the courtyard opposite the Hanuman Mandir, the Lakshmi Narayan, and Shivji Mandir. And they brought in a pujari to do the puja,
Yeah.
but they caught him stealing the money from the donation box. So they sent him home and they brought in another pujari. They caught him stealing the money. They brought in a third pujari and they caught him stealing the money. So the guys that run the temple, they said, Baba, we can't find a priest that won't steal. What are we going to do? Maharaji goes, my priest won't steal. They say, your priest? Who's that? Krishna Das. So I was called from the back of the temple and I said, oh, you're the pujari, go sit there. So the pujari who did the other pujas came over and did the actual puja. But I sat there and I distributed the Charanamrit to people.
Oh.
And Maharaji was there, and there were Indian people who did not want to take the Charanamrit from my hands.
Mm-hmm.
But they had no choice because he was sitting right there watching. And so they had to take it. And they told me the mantra to say while I was giving, and then I would sit there all day by the puja, and by the mandir.
Yeah.
And it was during Durga Puja time in 1972. And so for that period of time until the temple, it wasn't officially open yet. I think in the next spring, I think they opened it permanently. But at that time, Maharaji wanted it open for Durga Puja. So
that's actually interesting because that sort of ties in with what my grandfather did, which was he had a bunch of temples in the U.S. That he had bought, like houses that he made into temples.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he would do his lectures and harikathas from those places whenever he would travel from India to the States.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to give his devotees who were local to that temple the knowledge of how to do the puja. He wrote books on how to do Satyanarayana puja and different pujas, all different pujas. So that was another thing that he did, that I didn't mention earlier, which is,
mm-hmm.
He was very famous for that. And he actually made the Satyanarayana pujas a very common practice, sort of promoted it in this country.
Cool.
And then it started to become something that all these temples started to do, Satyanarayana puja. So
mm-hmm.
he wrote a book on that. And also the katha that comes with that, he wrote it in his own way and with his own, in his own words,
Good, yeah.
So my, a lot of disciples, not only did they learn his bhajans and singing sometimes, before he would start the lecture or after he was done, but when they were asked to do pujas or something like that, they knew all the vidhi of how to do it.
Beautiful.
So they used to maintain the temples that way. Otherwise, people wouldn't come there. There had to be some daily artis or
Yeah, sure.
something going on when he wasn't around. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that was
Beautiful. Yeah,
that was a cool connection that you were similar, something you learned in some manner. You learned.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so coming to your life where you began chanting and it started to become your life's mission that you want to chant, like with
I don't
people.
think of it. I don't think of it as a mission.
Okay.
I think of it like I'm up to here in the water,
Uh-huh.
and if I don't sing, I sink. If I sing, I stay right here. So
Keeping
I
yourself
sing.
afloat.
Just enough to breathe with my nose here in the
Yes.
water.
Yes.
That's the deal. It's not a mission. I'm not. Uh, I'm singing to save myself.
Yeah.
Now, myself is not different than everybody else's self,
Right.
capital S self.
Right.
So I'm not. I know that people get a lot out of it, but I also get a lot out of it,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't I wouldn't carry that burden of thinking that I'm doing anything for anybody. I'm simply singing to Maharaji. This is my practice, and the epiphany that I had that led me to start chanting was that one day I was in my room and my house, my apartment, I came into one room to the other, and
Hmm.
I had an epiphany, and I was struck with the understanding that if I did not chant with people, and it was
Yeah.
with people, I would never be able to clean out the dark shadows in my own heart. That was that. So it was sing or sink. Those were my two options. And I guess I decided to sing.
Yeah, that's probably the better route. But um, I guess it's interesting that you say that you had to sing with people, because at the start of your story you're saying how you were avoiding people and people were not, you didn't want to be around a lot of people, and it sort of took a 180 turn in that sense where being around people and singing with them and chanting with them sort of became what you did. Yeah.
Well, what can I say? That was his doing, not mine.
Yeah.
This is what he wanted.
Yeah.
And he created this. I'm just going along with the program. When I started singing with people, there were like 10 people there, that's all. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, with no social media, no nothing,
Right.
people started coming, people started coming, people started coming. And since I knew I had to sing with people and that people didn't understand what this practice is, so I made my first CD so that people would get a hit and understand, experience what it is, and then ask me to come sing because that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So that's what happened. But people ask me all the time, how can I share my chanting with the world? I said, are you okay? You have a fever? Are you doing something wrong with you?
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. I have to do this.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It's the best thing in the world for me.
Mhm.
But I can't tell you, it didn't happen because I wanted to. It happened because I had to. And this is what Maharaji created to save me, from me, for me.
Yeah.
So it's not about singing for other people or sharing anything. It's about
Yeah.
doing what the Guru wants you to do.
Yeah. So how was it like to produce your first CD, your first couple CDs, and then of course you made so many after that? But like, you went from just chanting with people in a smaller group, and then you said you decided to make that CD. What was that
Well,
process like? And
the the first CD, Jayutal produced it for me.
okay,
Helped me in the studio to get. I had no idea what to do, and he was very accomplished.
yeah,
And he played a bunch of the instruments, and we invited some other friends to come and play. From Pilgrim Heart on, from the second CD on, essentially, I I started to it got simpler. It got less. At the very beginning, even with Pilgrim Heart, to some degree, I was trying a little too hard. I I wanted to make it sound a certain way. I wanted to have, what the world music instruments in there, different drums and different feeling. I wanted, but by the end of Pilgrim Heart, I got over that, and after that, I was just chanting. That's all I wanted to do, whatever works to make the chant accessible and relatable and easy for people to move into. I got over my so-called my musical fantasies or whatever they were, and just wanted to sing, make it the best. But you have to learn, you have to recognize, like when I first started singing, I used my ektara, which is,
Yeah.
but then so many people were coming that it wasn't loud enough. So then I had a harmonium, and when I was young, I took a few piano lessons, so I was able to kind of start picking out the chants.
Hmm.
After all, it's one hand anyway, so that's good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A little easier.
Yeah. So, and then, so one time somebody came up and I asked a musician to come play with me. They came in and they said, "What time is sound check?" And I said, "What's that?" I didn't even, and then I began to realize, well, wait a second, it might sound good to me up front, but if the person in the back of the room can't hear it, then they can't respond. They can't get into it. So one thing led to another. It was all organic. There was no, I didn't know what I was doing, but it just, what was necessary happened.
Yeah.
So I can't take credit for it. I'm just another actor on the stage here, another puppet on the stage.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I'm sure whoever has heard Om Namah Shivaya, it's obviously one of the kirtans that you can't leave any of your live programs without singing. Uh,
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly, but I don't know if, or maybe it's a lesser known fact that you actually had a music video of that
Oh, wait, let's
song.
not talk about that. Look, I just want to tell you one thing. We can talk about it, but you said the priest at the beginning. That wasn't a
Yeah.
priest. That was Mr. Tiwari. That was my Indian father,
Oh, okay.
who
Okay.
was a great yogi.
Hmm.
I mean, big time. And, Hanumanji is a manifestation of Shiva.
Yes. Rudra
And
Avatar. Yes.
Rudravatar, Rudra, yeah.
Yeah.
And, um, and Maharaji is worshipped as Hanuman by most of his devotees. But some of his devotees,
Mm.
the really old devotees, they worship him as Shiva.
Mm.
And Maharaji allowed that to happen, especially with some of the devotees. And Mr. Tiwari was one of those very few devotees. And he would do these Shiva pujas. And that's him doing Shiva puja in Jageshwar, way up in the mountains in India.
Okay.
Very ancient Shiva temple.
Mm.
And that was just, I recorded the whole thing. That was just one little snippet of it. And then I wanted to put him at the very beginning, and there it was. And it worked out perfectly, the timing and everything.
That was great.
Yeah, so he was, he'd just go into samadhi. He would just, and he'd be gone, for
Yeah.
hours, hours and hours. He was an incredible yogi and a great devotee of Maharaji. And
Mm.
so, yeah. Yeah, the video.
The
So
music
there's
video. Yeah.
a very simple story. There was a guy who used to come to Kirtan a lot out in LA,
Mm.
who was a video director. He used to do commercials mostly. And he was putting a reel together to try to get a job as, to do videos and music videos and I guess films and stuff like that.
Mm.
So he asked me, if if we could do some kind of video together to Namah Shivaya. And I said, yeah, okay. So we came up with a story. And the story was very simple. There was a woman who was having a problem somewhere, and she was praying to Shiva, to the linga, in her home or at the temple, and she's praying to Shiva. And at some point, she puts flowers on the linga, and they drop into the lap of this sadhu in the jungle.
Ah,
That was the idea. And then it was, in other words, the connection with Shiva and the sadhu, and then she got her whatever she wished for. So then it just turned into fun. They put all kinds of makeup on me. Everybody. It was just, you know, it was just I don't know. It was just
yeah.
that's what it was. It wasn't even my show, but we had to do it. He said, "Could we do it?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" So
It looked like fun. For those who haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. And if you want, everyone,
if you haven't seen it, don't see it.
Krishna Das
It's too funny.
dressed up like a sadhu. That's your one and only chance probably to see that. So that was so cool, though. I actually found that really fun to watch. So, and I think you sort of answered, like I was going to ask you, like the Hanuman Chalisa, because that's the other thing that you always sing, and you sing it in different ragas and tunes and different chalisas you have done. But why? How does that resonate with you? What does the Hanuman Chalisa mean to you?
Well,
but I think you kind of said that because like Maharaji was
is
thought or is thought to be the incarnation of Hanuman.
we used to, when we first came to India, we needed to absorb the ways of relating to things. So we would watch the Indian people, and we would try to learn from them how to behave, how to do things. So we were not offend anybody, and that kind of thing. So every time we came to the temple, they would hand us this little booklet, with a yellow booklet with a flying monkey. So I had 100 of these booklets in my room. When finally one day I said to the guy, he was giving it to me. I said, "Well, what is this anyhow?" He said, "Oh, it's Hanuman Chalisa. It's a hymn to Hanuman." Oh, so we knew that Maharaji was seen as Hanuman. And so I thought, well, if we learn this, we could sing it to him, and then we'll get to spend more time with him. And that's exactly what happened. We learned it. He sent us away for the whole rainy season, 71. Mm-hmm. We were up in the mountains in Kosani, and every day we would practice the Chalisa. We had to transcribe it out of the Hindi. We had to learn the Hindi alphabet, transcribe it out, learn how to pronounce it took months to do it. Yeah. And we finally had it together. And so it was from our side, we were trying to find a way into that presence, but from his side, he was facilitating that for us.
Yes.
And he would talk about Hanuman Chalisa. He would say every word, every line of Hanuman Chalisa is Maha Mantra.
Yes.
And that chanting the Hanuman Chalisa can change fate. I mean, and you have to understand, I don't know anything about Hanuman. I don't know anything about Ram. I don't know anything about Krishna, the Devi, anybody. What I know is what it feels like to be with Maharaji.
Yeah.
And that is what I know it feels like to be with God. That's what I know it feels like to be with Hanuman, with Krishna, with Ram, because Maharaji is that. Yes. And so everything I do, everything I aspire to is to simply be in that presence. And without that, what would I know? Nothing. Yeah. It would just be an idea, a thought. But this is something else. This is, in Ramcharitmanas, it says, Rama is beyond the ordinary means of cognition, the ordinary means of knowing things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not known here. It's not known in the emotions or the thoughts. It's
Yeah.
beyond
It's
those
beyond.
ways of knowing.
Yes.
But it's knowable.
Mm.
But it's beyond those ways, the ordinary ways of knowing.
Yes.
So that connection with Maharaji is beyond those ordinary ways of knowing. And so every prayer I do, every mantra, every puja, every kirtan, it's all about entering into that presence again and again.
Yeah. So once you started doing concerts and you were touring a lot, would you have the same set routine when you would have your concerts, essentially like the same kirtans are being sung every day, wherever, just in a different place, in a different audience? Or would you have some deviation from that and say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to see what the audience, how I feel from the audience? Because I've often heard some of these ghazal singers and bhajan singers and all, they're like, hey, I get a feel for what the audience wants that day, and I kind of get that vibe, and I may sing something different. You'll have some that you'll sing that are the same, that are like the standard ones, but then I somehow get a feel from the audience is what they say, and there, or sometimes there are requests being thrown, like verbalized to that singer, like farmaish is what they call it. So how's the structure of what you plan for your concerts? Or does it just...
What you've described is too much thinking for me.
Okay.
I tend to get into a groove with a certain number of chants that I start doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, the first time I sang in LA, one of the first times I sang in LA, it was at this festival. And all these great musicians were there, what was his name? Guitar player, Krishna Bhatt? No.
Vishwa Mohan Bhatt.
Vishwa Mohan Bhatt, yeah. He was there. These other ghazal singers were there. These qawwali singers were there.
Yeah.
They asked me to come.
Oh.
They asked me. I said, "Were you crazy? What do you want me for?" "Oh, no, you must come, please. You must, So they asked me to just do the invocation at the beginning, a little puja, a little Devi kirtan or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. And so there was a critic in the audience that day. And the next day in the LA Times, it said, "Oh, this guy Krishna Das came and is American, and he kind of looked like a dentist, and his stuff was very repetitive, I laughed. Yeah, you're right. It's repetitive, asshole. Yeah. So it was like
that's the whole idea.
Exactly. But he didn't know. I'm just teasing. But so I just sing what I feel to sing. I don't even think about it. Sometimes I'll sing other things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I won't.
Mm.
I'm not very smart, so things don't necessarily come to mind that often. I just do what I do, I don't really. People don't bother to request things. Every once in a while, somebody does, but I don't. I'm not singing to them in the first place. I'm singing to their true self and my true self, which is the same. Siddhima used to say all the time, "You don't sing to people. You sing to God. You sing to Maharaji." So I don't really think about it that much, and I don't have a program, a set. It might be the same for months, and then all of a sudden it'll change. I don't know, Because for me, it's the repetition and the ever-deepening evolution by practice. So I don't care if it's the same. It's different every moment. It doesn't seem the same to me. So, whatever,
So the Grammys, that was unique.
What place in the world did that have the biggest effect? India.
Yeah.
People thought, really? A Westerner is getting so much attention for singing bhajan? This is amazing. So the Indian people went crazy. They loved it.
What was the experience like meeting the popular musicians? Like, what did they how did they greet you, or did you have any such meetings with people because you were there with them? So
Not
behind the
really.
scenes.
I didn't really meet many people during that period.
Yeah.
When I came out on stage and looked out in the audience, there was Chick Corea, who just died a couple of days ago.
Yes.
Chick
Yes.
Corea, Pat Metheny,
Mm,
these guys were the greatest musicians in the world. And
mm.
I thought, am I really going to squeeze my little box here and moan and groan in front of these guys, you know? But once I start, then I'm too stupid to think about anything else. I just sing. So it was good. There were some issues, some technical issues with the band. The Grammy band, who was supposed to back us up, didn't really know the music. They didn't pay attention to what we sent them, but for the most part, it was okay.
Yeah.
The funny thing was that CD, Live Ananda,
Mm.
was recorded live at this place where I used to sing a lot. The reason I did that CD was because the record company that owned the rights to the masters had stolen all the money from me from the royalties, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars they didn't pay, and I had no recourse. It was a complicated situation with bankruptcy law, and I legally there was nothing I could do about it. So I was really hurt and angry. So I decided to re-record some of those chants that had been on the earlier CDs. Now, funnily enough, that's not the best motivation to be chanting, to tell you the truth. That was a little bit. But yet, that was the CD that got all the attention. How strange. Life is so strange. So,
So
yeah.
now you're doing these virtual, Thursday evening satsangs, and I would encourage those who are watching to definitely tune in on YouTube, Krishna Das Music Channel, Instagram, and Facebook from his ID handle. But I've tuned into some of them. They're amazing. But how do you feel with just comments popping up and hearts going up, and it's like you've gone from being a live performer and being with a live audience, and
To
now
being a
you're
dead performer? What are you trying to say?
I don't know. No, I mean, no, I mean you're still a live performer, but I mean you have people watching you from their devices, So how does that? How is it different for you, or does it is it any different?
um, Ultimately, it's not really that different.
Mhm.
Yes, I can't see people. I don't
Yeah,
hear people.
exactly. That's what my
But
point was.
but if you notice, even when I sing with people, I don't even my eyes close. I
Yes.
don't know what people are doing. Everybody said, "Oh, everybody was dancing." I said, "Really? Oh, shit, I missed it." My eyes. I don't even do that on purpose. It's just I'm doing my practice.
Yeah.
My job is to sing and pay attention. That's no different whether I'm in front of 10,000 people or sitting alone in front of a microphone and the computer.
Yeah.
My job is the same. I love to sing with people. I love to travel. I love to meet people, but I also love being here at home and not traveling. So I don't know. It's not so different for me. There was a little learning curve to figure out how to use the drum machine on the app on the iPad for the drum.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
once in a while it screws me up, but still, and getting the sound together. But after that, it's just life. It feels okay.
Yeah. I think we all had to go through some sort of an adjustment. Um,
For sure, on many levels. Yeah, I'm not complaining. I mean,
yeah.
Maharaji's, there's food on the table. We have a roof over our heads, and we're okay. By the way, I wanted to mention you mentioned the Chance of a Lifetime book
Yes.
that I wrote. We just completed a audio book of that, so that's
I,
available now. That's people seem to like those things, so I just wanted you
yeah.
to know about that.
I am aware of that. When I downloaded your book, I just downloaded the regular book because I was like, I do not want to be lazy about reading.
Yeah, no, reading's good.
Because here we are not flipping any real pages anymore. It's all on your tablet. So
Yeah,
already it's changed.
yeah,
And I don't want to make myself even more, like somebody telling me a story like when I was a little kid.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
so I kind of opted for manually reading it.
yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good.
That's
It's
nice.
one
Yeah,
of
yeah.
those things. A lot of people these days they seem to like audiobooks.
No, it's a good thing you
I
said.
don't think I've ever even listened to one, but I hear it's supposed to be great. So maybe I will.
So how's your routine now? Or do you have any routine? What is it like being in this pandemic world? And how is it for you on a daily basis? You know, you're not traveling anywhere, obviously. So
Well, not traveling has been very good for my body. I mean, I had terrible adrenal fatigue and adrenal overload, and it
mhm.
over this almost a year now with no traveling. It's been I
Yeah,
think my body started to recover quite a bit. But I'm also a year older, so that's it. Kind of work against each other.
yeah,
But I'm very grateful for the situation as it is. I really can't complain. Everything.
mm,
My daughter and my grandson and her partner, they bring food over when we need it. If there's anything here, it's just been. There's really no suffering involved for me being
yeah,
home like this. I'm very grateful for that, and I am aware of how hard it is for a lot of people. But
yeah,
you know, I've spent my whole life dealing with my thoughts and emotions in a certain kind of way.
yeah,
This is no different. For people who haven't done any practice,
yeah,
they're getting eaten alive by this stuff. And they have no no way to deal with it because they haven't ever understood that you can deal with your thoughts and emotions in a way that eventually lightens it up and makes you easier to get through the day. But
right.
so many people don't have any understanding of that, so they
Yes.
suffer needlessly, so to speak, but terribly and it's a shame. It's really heartbreaking. But for people who been doing practice for so long, it's just more practice.
Yeah. Very true. One last thing I'd like to say before I'd like to request you actually to chant something to close this program. But if you don't mind, but I did want to ask you about Ram Dass because
Mm.
obviously he was your mentor. He was the first one you met before you met Maharaji, or you met Maharaji through him, and of course he was with you many times in your life, and of course even after Maharaji passed on, you still were meeting him, and so tell me about how a little, your feelings on Ram Dass and what he meant to you, and what it felt like when he left his body.
Ram Dass and I had a relationship that spanned 50 years.
Mm.
And we weren't always very close physically. We didn't. There were periods of time for the years would go by we would hardly see each other. Busy with our own stuff. Um, but like you say, it was through him that I came to Maharaji,
Yeah.
uh, and not only that, especially these last 20 years since was in the wheelchair after his stroke, we spent a lot of time together, and watching him deal with aging and the suffering involved in the stroke and the diabetes and the ongoing physical agonies and sufferings, it was so extraordinary to watch how he overcame so much pride and and it became truly humble and really overcame a lot of anger issues and stuff that he had carried, all through his life. By the end,
Yeah.
gone, and I used to tease him a lot. I used to say, you finally become who we thought you were 40 years ago. And he would laugh. That was my favorite thing, making him laugh. We had great laughs together, and he was very kind, very supportive of me, and yeah, I miss him a lot, and I don't miss him at all because he's just right here.
Yeah.
Really, he was so at ease as those last moments came. He was so ready,
Yeah.
so relaxed, so open. It was just beautiful to be. I was with him till about 4 days before he died. I had to leave, come back to
Oh.
the mainland. I was in Maui with him.
Yeah.
But at that point, he never got out of bed again. He was, and
But was he
I
always
just,
fully aware? Was he always fully aware, even after the stroke, and when he
yeah.
was, he was able to recount moments with and things like that with you?
Oh yeah, sure. The only thing that was damaged, he used to say, the room where thoughts go to be clothed in words was bombed.
Hmm.
In other words, the room that the thoughts would come into to get expression in words was bombed. That room was bombed. So a lot of times he couldn't speak clearly. His thoughts would get jumbled, and the wrong words would come out. But
Yeah.
but it's called aphasia. But he could make himself understood, and it wasn't always that bad. And many times it wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
But he was just so with Maharaji. Really, he loved Maharaji so much, and he became really fully surrendered to accepting what had to happen as
Yeah.
and accepting the grace that gave him the power to deal with it and the strength to deal with it, and to overcome his issues. It was really beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really think most Westerners, most people can really understand what a great being he is, because his life was extraordinary. I mean, he did so many things that were amazing,
Right.
but it was very hard for Westerners who don't have the reference point for saints to kind of understand what he had morphed into, what he had kind of blossomed into.
Right.
He really was a very great yogi and a great saint.
So beautiful. It's always great to listen to his talks through whatever source we can find them.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
Ramdas.org, and the Love Serve Remember Foundation has all his talks categorized up there online, and yeah.
One the last question I have is about your daughter. Speak about her. Like, what role has she played in your life, and how is it parenting her, and how is life with her today? Because we've heard her voice also in some of your kirtans.
Acha, yeah, she's
Yeah,
on few of the CDs.
yeah,
I love to sing with her. She's got a beautiful voice, and you know, and let's see, what was it? Spring? Maybe it was fall '72.
mm,
We were in Maharaji's temple in Brindavan, and wherever he was, whenever he was in a temple, one of his temples, he had Mahamantra sung all day long, all night long. Usually over the loudspeaker, maybe sometimes during pujas it would be turned off. But so the nighttime shift, which was from about 10 to 4 in the morning, was this young Nepali man and his daughter. And they would come and sing for many hours, the same melody over and over and over and over. He would sing a line and she would sing. He would play harmonium very simply, and she would play a very simple little drum beat, bum, bum, there. And we used to sit outside in the courtyard at night with Maharaji in the dark and listen to this chanting coming over the loudspeakers. And I remember being so moved by it, and the beauty of this guy singing with his daughter, it was just, and I can actually, it doesn't take any imagination for me to see that desire or longing that it brought up in me. I was also given that in my life to sing with my daughter, and this time it just manifested itself that way. Very beautiful.
Very beautiful. So special. Thank you. Krishna Das, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. It has been a very enriching discussion for me, and it's a moment I'll never forget. And for me, I feel like the guru principles that guide us, like I said in the beginning, I feel like your guru and my guru met sort of in this fashion, I don't know if they ever did meet, but
all gurus are one. Guru, God, self, and
all are
same.
one. Yes.
Yeah.
So can you please chant something to bring this to a close, if you don't mind?
Well, I don't have I can't sing in the harmonium. I'm not set up for it, but
okay.
I could just sing a little chant here with the guitar.
Thank you.
Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate. Om Ham Hanumate Namaha.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you. Keep in touch, okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Ram
Om
Ram.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Ram Ram.
Okay, bye.
Thank you very much.